Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation of our monthly Business Boost series. I'm your host, Randy Bowers, and today I'd like to thank you for joining us this morning for episode 3 of our Business Boost series, Your Database, Your Goldmine. Also with me today is our very own Lones Group CEO, Shauna Knapp. Shauna, good morning. How about we get things going here? Denise has a lot of great advice to share.
Absolutely. Well, welcome everyone to Your Database, Your Goldmine with Denise Lones. I'm Shauna Knapp of the Lones Group, and today Denise is going to be covering how to stay connected with your database of past clients and what's commonly known as your sphere. So Denise is a former top producing agent in a very competitive market, but before she even got into real estate, she had developed her tried and true 36-point follow-up system to stay connected as a sales professional, and she's going to be talking a lot about that today. And when she made the transition into real estate, she put that 36-point system to work for her, which catapulted her business. And often, we're finding that agents are focused on like quick fix lead generation systems, but they're not taking the time to cultivate the very, very valuable bucket of business that's already there for the taking in their database. So we're going to cover all that today, all this and more on today's webinar. And as Randy said, if you've got questions along the way, please don't hesitate to ask. We're going to get to those questions at the end. And if you're wondering how you could possibly implement those tools, we're going to show you how to do that today as well. So Denise, I'm going to turn things over to you. Your screen looks great.
Well, first thing I want to say is that if you're listening to this webinar, you can definitely walk away with some great ideas of how to not only cultivate your database, but grow your business. And the bottom line is that in today's highly competitive real estate market, what does matter the most are the relationships that you have and the loyalty that you can build with your clients. So, you know, I believe gone are the days where you can just sign up for some quick fix online lead generation systems and hope that all of these strangers that are calling you are going to become, you know, lifelong clients. And I understand there's a place in any business for online lead generation, but I know that there's a much more successful way to run your business, and that is through cultivating your database. I'm going to talk a lot about that. So first of all, let's look at the stats, okay? And these are stats that come right out of the profile of the National Association of Realtors home buyer and seller profile that they do every year. So 42% of buyers used an agent that was referred by a friend, a neighbor, or a relative. So let's look at that for a second. You know, what you do for people, how you do it, gets remembered. It gets talked about. It gets passed along. But this is still you know, a decent number of referrals that you know, come an agent's way. Okay. Only 11% of buyers use the agent they worked with before. And this is, to me, this is a stunning, and I mean a stunning number. So if you've only got 11% of those buyers using the agent they worked with before, what happened? Even though 73% of them said that they would definitely use that agent again, what that means is that a buyer has used somebody before, they were happy with them, but they didn't use them again. Did they not use them again because they weren't happy with them? No, because they had indicated they would. They didn't use them again because out of sight, out of mind. The biggest mistake you make in this business is out of sight, out of mind. 15% of buyers recommended, when I look at this stat, this to me is stunning. 15% of buyers recommended an agent once. 21% recommended an agent twice. 29% recommended 3 or more times. But what's really interesting to me is you see that number goes up and up as a client is happier with you. So I guess the overall point that I want to make talking about the home buyer profile is that if you're good at what you do, you still may not get referred. If you're good at what you do and you remind your clients who you are, you have a better chance of building your business. 39% of sellers used an agent that was referred to them by a friend, neighbor, or relative. So very interesting. That's a higher number for seller than it is for buyers. But only 25% of sellers used that agent again that they had used in the past, even though 70% said they were happy. So you see, it's not just buyers, it's sellers. It's a theme. And this is one of these things where, again, what's missing from your business? Is it your skills? No, you're good at what you do. you're good at getting the job done. It is that follow-up, that follow-through, that taking care of your client base, having them feel that you're not too busy for them, letting them know that you remember them. In real estate or in any business, it doesn't matter what the business is, there are always 3 types of clients moving around at any given time. It's your potential clients, the clients that you're cultivating, you're working with them. They're not 100% sure maybe when they will buy or what they will buy or what that end final solution for them will be, but they're on your radar screen. Okay, so the potential clients they're right there on that radar screen, but if they float around too much, you got to be careful, because they may float into somebody else's radar screen, and that other agent may be doing a better job of monitoring their radar screen, and they may see when they're getting close to something and may alert them. If you're not alerting your potential clients of, whether they're a buyer or a seller, if you're not taking the time to take care of that client, they're going to end up somewhere else. Okay. Your current clients are those clients that's a current listing. You're taking care of them. That's a buyer that's been out in your car this weekend. They're in the process of writing an offer, or they are pending to close. That's your now business. The problem in real estate is that most real estate agents spend 95% or more of their time in the yellow bucket. And if you're in the yellow bucket, you can definitely handle and get all of your current transactions closed. But as soon as the bucket of current clients is empty, you're lonely. That's a lonely yellow bucket. I'll tell you right now, if that's all you do is spend your time in that yellow bucket, it's not a happy place. You have to, while taking care of your current clients, never forget the other 2 buckets. And the final bucket is the past client bucket. This bucket has the most potential of any of the buckets, the most. And the reason it's green is because this is your money gold mine. Yellow is just fairly neutral. It's what you're taking care of now. I don't need to lecture you about current clients, because the transaction drives the action, right? You've got to work on the paperwork. You have to work with the title company. You've got to work in the pending process with them, or it's not going to close. So the current client bucket, the transaction drives the action. But the green bucket, the past clients, there's no transaction to drive and take that action. With potential clients, there's no transaction. There's a hope of a transaction. But the yellow bucket is where you're going to spend 95 or more % of your time. And then the green bucket and the red bucket get severely neglected. And that's what we need to talk about. So one of the things that you need to think about is okay, well, how do I keep all these buckets happy? And how am I going to keep all these people informed? And one of the most important things that you need to be doing with your database is you need to be in contact in some way on a monthly basis. Monthly, because it is easy to do, it's easy to remember. Your clients start to get the feeling that I'm going to hear from you once a month. Once a month, if you leave it too long, and now it's every quarter or every couple of months, it's just not enough. And we have worked with so many agents over the years, and we've tried it every single way. We've tried everything, and nothing works as effectively as having a system of monthly communication with your clients. So a lot of times people will say, well, my database, how do I get all my database together? And what happens is you've got this bucket that is a sphere of influence, and that sphere of influence is you're going to find that those individuals are either going to just stay in that bucket, or they start to move from one to the other, because someone in your sphere of influence may call you and say, I'm thinking about maybe selling my house. It's not going to be for a few years, Denise, but I'm thinking about it. Then I'm taking them from that sphere of influence. I'm putting them now into a potential client bucket, because they've talked to me about specifically a timeline, what they're thinking of doing. I know that they're a seller, so they've given me more information. They've jumped from one bucket to the other. And that's really what the game of really managing your follow-up is. And it's the game of tracking your database and making sure that you help each bucket get to the other bucket. So you want your current client to make it to be a past client, but then I want my past clients to come back and be a potential client again. And it's bucket hopping. That's the game of great follow-up. That's what it looks like. The 5 biggest mistakes that I find that agents are making in their business right now, and they're very common mistakes, but the biggest one, the biggest one is not doing it. It's lack of consistency. It's doing it once in a while. It's doing it half well. It's doing it on, if you're doing mailings, maybe the paper quality isn't that good, or maybe you don't have your brand together. Maybe you haven't thought about how it's going to visually look. And maybe, there's just a lack of doing something on a consistent basis. The next one, which I've touched on a little bit, is just you're too generic. It's visually generic. It feels generic. It feels like it's mass produced. Maybe your company provides it. Maybe it's part of a coaching program. Even with our clients that we coach individually, I want every one of them to have an authentic, personal, specific type of mailer that's going to speak to their database, not everybody else's database. If you're sending something out and 50 other agents are sending out the exact same thing to the exact same database in the exact same area, you're going to have mass duplication. And clients don't like things that are generic. Clients like things that are way more individual. The next mistake that I find agents make is that it's really a content shallow material, meaning that the material really doesn't have anything that it feels local. It's national. It's got stupid things in it like, recipes. Now, I'm not saying that recipes are bad, because I love to cook. And if you have some part of your marketing campaign where you provide all this great information, and then at the end of it, you say, oh, by the way, here's what I cooked on Sunday, and you have a connection with your database in that manner, and you've connected some way, that's fine. But you got to have 90% has to be rich real estate related content. Save the 10% as the icing on the cake, but you can't do it in the reverse. Okay. The next mistake people make is they're not keeping the database updated. And this is a very, very classic situation. People that die, people that move. I've purchased a house where the person in that house has passed away. And I've been getting mail for years. And, it shocks me that people don't even check in with their database. There's no connection whatsoever. If you don't know somebody in your database has passed away and you're not keeping up to date enough, that's a classic example that you're not taking care of your database. And the 5th one is you apologize for lack of contact with your database, but then you are not doing anything about it. So if you know that you have not, and this is for all those listeners out there that have a database, they've done nothing with it, I don't want you to send out I apologize for my lack of consistency. I apologize, I haven't been a good agent. I'm going to get better now. You don't need to apologize for anything. What you need to do is you need to go back to step 1, which is lack of consistency, change that, become consistent, and they will just be like, oh, she's doing a nice mailing campaign now. Oh, she's done it a couple times. Oh, it seems like she does this on a regular basis now. Oh, I get something from her every month. Oh yeah, that's my agent. I get stuff from her all the time. You see how you slowly evolve from being no contact to, oh, that's my agent again. You go from not even being mentioned as their agent to now you're back in their good graces. And that's the whole idea of consistency. Okay. The other thing people ask me all the time is, how much is enough? How much is too much? How much should I do? When should I mail it out? What should that look like? So let me just tell you very briefly, because it's a very long story, about a system that I created when I was selling real estate. And it's called the 36-point system. It's extremely effective. And in a nutshell, what it is it is a numerical system of counting how much contact a person should be getting in a year. The magic formula for me, and it's been that way for all the years I've been in real estate, and that is to earn, the whole goal is you're going to earn 36 points per year with every client you have. Now, I have also assigned a point value to different things. And this actually, my point system was created in a business I had prior to real estate. And when I came into real estate, my first 6 months, I wasn't doing that well in real estate. Well, the moment I implemented the 36-point system, I started to see a notable difference in my business. Also, I've done this with clients, and if they truly implement the 36-point system, they see a notable difference. So here's basically the concept and the idea of this, okay? Obviously, the more custom something is, the more personal it is, the better and higher the connection is with the client, the more points you're going to get. Now, I want to go down to the middle of the page, and you're going to see that the lowest point is an email. Now, here's the thing. That is not a generic mass sent out email. I'm not for mass produced emails that are too generic, unless you're talking about or you're announcing an event or it's an invitation or something like that. But an email, you'll notice, has the lowest point value, and that's because it's the least, it takes the least amount of time, it's the least personal to the client. Now, if you get on the phone and you're talking to a client, that's big. That's worth 4 points. So what does that mean? You just have to call a client, 9 times a year? Yeah, that's exactly what it means. Maybe you see somebody in person. Maybe you do an event. That's worth 6 points. Mail is worth anywhere from 1 to 3 points. 1 point if it's just a piece of mail that gets sent to them. 3 points if it's branded and it is real estate specific. So let's look at mail for a second. What I did very successfully is I used this category of mail a lot. I did 12 mailings a year. Now, if I just mailed those out, it's only 12 points. So I wanted to earn that 36 points, quicker and easier. So what I did is I did a piece of mail that's worth 1 point. I had it beautifully branded with my brand so that I had a voice there and it was authentic. That brought it up to 2 points. So now I'm at 24 points a year. And then I made it all about real estate. I made it very, very content real estate rich. So each mailing now went from a point value of 1 to 3. So now I'm at 36 points a year. And that's what I did the majority of the time. I also did some other things in there where I started to do an event once a year. So now I had my mailers, I had my annual event, which was worth 6 points, because even though not everybody showed up, I was sending invitations out and I was connecting with people. And so earning 36 points a year is actually very, very easy to do if you get yourself organized. Okay, so let's just go through this very quickly. Call 4 points, in-person 6 points, mail 1 to 3, email 1, a custom report, which could be like an annual client review that you do for the client. That's about their house, not just a generic one, is worth 6 points. Also, a calendar that is specifically real estate related is also worth 6 points because it's rated very high in what clients have said that they like over the years, and they like and prefer real estate rich content. Okay. So here's an example of a 1 point mailer. So 1 point mailer is fairly generic. It's pretty generic, okay? It's not visually branded. It may not be real estate related. Example, set your clock back. That's not really real estate related. So that's worth 1 point, okay? There isn't a lot of impact here. So this is okay, but do you really want to be sending out 36 of these a year? That's too much mailing. That's overkill. That's where people just look at your stuff and go, it's junk, it's generic. So why waste your money on something like that, okay? A 3 point mailer is where you're getting 1 point because you're sending it out by mail. You're getting another point because it's real estate related. It's very data rich and content rich. You've got the agent's face and branding and picture. It's very custom. This is a 3 point mailer. The difference is monumental. Okay, this is a huge difference. So when you do an annual mailing plan, it's really, really simple to do. So let me give you an example. Okay, here's an agent that said, listen, I want to keep this really simple. What I want to do is I'm going to do an article every single month, and I'm going to change it up in January and December. So yes, every other month, they're 10 months out of the year, they're doing all real estate related mailings. And then in January, they do like an annual recap article. So they just make it a little bit more of an annual feel. And then in December, they do the predictions article. This is a very simple, easy 36-point system campaign that is simple to do. If you want to do a more advanced way of doing it, you say, okay, I am going to do that article. I am going to do the predictions and that, because I want, to do that summary. but I also want to do a quarterly report. And 4 times a year, I'm going to do a quarterly report. And in January, I'm going to do an annual report, but in that quarterly report format. So what that basically means is that you need to have a quarterly report style layout or template in your branding, and then you need to have an article, market watch template, and then one for your annual report. Very, very simple, but it is advanced. It's a little bit, it mixes it up a little bit. The nice thing is that your article format with the market watch is going to feel and look differently than that quarterly report. That quarterly report is going to be a little bit beefier, and it's just going to mix it up and be even more advanced. So this is what we would call an advanced mailing campaign. Here's an example, a visual example of somebody who has done just that. They're doing that annual, if you look at January, you look at April, you look at July, and you look at October, you can see that that's more of the quarterly report format. And then the rest of the time, they're doing that monthly report. Now, these are just, this is just an example of layout style. It's not an example of his actual mailings, because you'll notice a lot of these are duplicated. But this is just to give you an example that from a layout perspective, you don't really have a lot of work to do. You set it up once, you set it, you forget it, and all you do once a month is fill the content. You don't got to come up with some new fancy layout every month. This keeps it really simple for you. I think that, you know, when I'm talking about any type of mailing program, I have to really think about one of our agents, Cheryl Nygaard. And, you know, first of all, she is the queen of consistency. She is an agent that has learned to master her business because she has a very good consistency, I'll call it personal self-discipline part of her business. So she mails monthly. She finds good information every single month, but it becomes just part of what she does. And by doing that, that really makes a huge difference in her business. When I look back, when I look at this visual, this is a sampling of all of the different types of mailings that Cheryl has done over the year. And she's evolved. I mean, her photos evolved. But one thing that has been consistent is there's data in here. There's charts. There's graphs. It's interesting. And you'll notice that. I mean, if you lived in her farm area, wow, you're looking at a lot of good data on a regular basis. So Cheryl's just done a fantastic job with that. That's what your goal is. Your goal is to get remembered. Your goal is to be top of mind. And your goal is to provide good real estate information to them. Examples of all of the different types of content that we have people using. You know, when you're thinking about putting together your monthly campaign, first and foremost, you can really use any type of an industry-specific, very real estate-specific type of article. People love real estate articles. They also love, number two, that quarterly report that's very visual, that is very, you know, I love quarterly reports that show this quarter versus last quarter. It shows a comparison. It shows a stat. That's very important in a quarterly report. The other thing, and one of probably our most popular things that people love, is when you do any kind of real estate forecasting. And real estate forecasting, you don't have to be an economist to do that. You're in the market. You can forecast and know that if we're so short of inventory now, that we're going to have a robust spring. I mean, that's your professional expertise. That's not you being a fortune teller. This is important stuff that you have a voice, and people need to know that you have a voice and you use that voice. The other thing people love is information that's very specific to a particular neighborhood. They really love that. And then, of course, anything that is a real estate did you know type of fact. So, for example, recently in the state of Washington, one of the House bills just got passed, and it's real estate specific. Talk about that. Let people know how that bill is going to affect them. The other thing they love, number 6, is anything that's real estate investing success. So here's a story about a client of mine. They had a dream to buy a house, fix it up, keep it as a rental, and look at what they did. They love those types of things. Also, number 7, doing any kind of a market watch that shows how property values compare. They love to see property value comparisons. Number 8, anything to do with area zoning, planning updates, information about changes that are coming in a particular area that maybe you've just learned about from sitting in a city council meeting. And yes, finally, of course, they love those calendars. So all of that, all those things are really, really important. You know, and it's one thing to have great content, but the other thing you have to remember is that you're dealing with different people. And sorry guys, and it's important to know what their personality types is. So what I do is I assume that every single personality type out there is, I have to make my mailers for that. And the one thing I know, when you do a mailer, there will always be that one mailer that just seems to get the phone ringing, or it seems to get people moving or talking to you or asking you questions. And usually it's because that person, whether they are an analytical or a supporter, there's been something in there that's resonated with them. And I think that that's really, really, really important. So first and foremost, if you're a promoter, promoters have to have visual appeal. Promoters are color coders. They need things mentally organized. They need things that are visually beautiful. You could literally stop a promoter in their tracks if you show them something visually stunning, which means you need to have color. You need to have interesting content, but the content has to tell a story with the photos and the callouts and any graphs, but they need order, color, organization, and the wow factor. Supporters want the story. They want people. They want you to relate using people. They love the look what my client just did story, or the investing stories. They love testimonials because it's proof that someone's gone before them. So all those kinds of things are super important. They value the relationship. So you speaking in your content, super important. Even doing your newsletter, and then at the end of it, even putting something personal in there, they love that. Controllers, they need to know you know what you're doing, and they don't need a great big long song and dance about it. They want the information, they want it provided in a very succinct manner. They like summaries, they like before and afters, they like getting you to get to the point. So, and they like to hear your voice. They like to know that you're confident. They want to hear you say, spring, best spring ahead, here's why, and then 3 bullet points. They don't need a great big, they don't need 3 paragraphs. Give them 3 bullet points, because they really are good at filling in the blanks. And then our analyticals need data, they need information. And that's really important that you take this one very seriously, because if an analytical person opens up your mailers and there's no data in it for them, no references, no proof of accuracy, they're going to look at it, discard it, and they're not going to think much more of it. Okay. So let me show you now my favorite database follow-up templates. Okay. So here is a great size for a mailer. This is a 5.5 by 11-inch postcard. It's fantastic because and when you look at this, here is where this has been designed with 4 personality types in mind. So for example, I'm a promoter controller. When I look at this, right away, both my promoter personality, my controller personality I love it, because I love the visual icons, the little for sale sign. I can see clearly that there's an arrow, something's gone up, something's gone down. What is that? It gets me excited to look at it. I love the chart. I love the graph, rather. I love the fact on the left side of the graph, there's a very simple summary. Medium sales prices for residential King County has risen 32.5% since January of 2014. I can look at that and go, wow, that's interesting. So right away, there's something on this for both my personality types. This is a personality-proofed mailer. This all personality types will like. Here is another mailer, which is the 8.5 by 11 folded mailer. So I want you to imagine, if you look at this, you take your 8.5 by 11, you fold it over, you've got the address information on the back. But again, it's very visual. I've got numbers in there. I've got charts in there. I love the different categories. So this isn't just another size. And what I tell people to do is mix it up a little bit. You might have 3, really great sizes, different types of templates that you use, and you mix it up. Your clients get to know that and to see it, and they love it. But this is a really good piece. The other one is the 11 by 17. I love the 11 by 17 because it looks like a little booklet. And this is just such a visually appealing and really great mail-out style for all the different personality types. So when you look at this, again, you've got some visual, You've got some charts, some graphs, and this is just an example of a type of size and layout. But again, this is a really, really nice size to use. So those are my 3 favorite sizes because people like them. They're easy for you to use. They allow you to really put on a lot of content, put in a lot of content, and they are also affordable. They're standard. They're not anything that's too weird that's going to break the bank. So I guess, when you think about, all the things that I've talked about so far, it's, you may go, that's a great idea. I love it. I wish I could do that, but how am I going to find the time to do this follow-up? And I think the most important thing that you have to realize is that if you are looking to try to find the time, you're probably not going to find it because real estate's a very busy, occupation. It's a busy business, and you can be busy all the time. And I think that the clients that I've worked with over the years that master this, they look at this just more of, this is something I just do every month. I don't necessarily know when I'm going to do it, but I do it every month. It's kind of more of that attitude where it's got to get done. It's just a task that has to get done. Just like, could you imagine doing a transaction and going, I don't really feel like getting the earnest money check in. I don't really feel like, I don't want to send over those documents. I'm tired. I don't want to do it. We laugh at that because it's so ridiculous. If you could look at your follow-up system in that manner and have that same feeling, oh my goodness, and you looked at this as a task management thing that you had to do, and it was no longer something that was optional. It was just part of what you do. And I have things like that in my business that are just, they're not optional. I've got to do it. I have to write a zebra report every single week. It comes out on a Thursday, and it doesn't matter. Nobody at my office cares about if I don't feel like doing it. No, none of my clients care if I don't feel like doing it. They expect it. And I remember there have been times where it's gone out late because of some technical issue. And by 7 o'clock at night, I've got clients that are emailing going, are you sick? Are you okay? Because they know that zebra report's coming out and they don't get it. And they wonder what happened, and luckily, over the last 15 years, I think that's happened twice to me, but that's because it's got to go. It's part of my task management plan. It's not optional. And that's what I want you to stop fighting. Stop fighting time. You're not going to win it. I tell agents all the time, don't live your real estate business where you are tracking a clock. Build a business that you've got a set foundational list of items that have to get done. A foundation of your business building is to make sure those buckets are taken care of, okay? Let me show you my plan. This is how I was successful at selling real estate. This is how I sold all the homes I sold. I was very fortunate, and I had a very successful business, and I had it because I had a consistent plan I followed. And my plan was very simple. I had 3 things I did weekly, 2 things I did monthly, 2 things I did annually, and the rest of the time, I took care of clients. And the nice thing is, by doing the things that are in front of you that you can see right now that I did, by doing these things, it allowed my wheel to just keep turning. I didn't need to get off the hamster wheel and start again. I stayed on it at a nice, steady, even pace and spent most of my time taking care of that yellow bucket of current clients like everybody else does. But instead of spending 5% on that database or my databases, I spent time every single week making sure my databases were taken care of. So here's what it looked like. Every Monday, I made sure that I called my sellers. I didn't care if I had 1 listing. I didn't care if I had 10 listings or 20 listings. Every Monday, sellers got a call. I did an update. Here's what happened this week. Here's the market that went on. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's what's happening in the marketplace. Let's talk about our strategy for the week. Every week I did that. And if they didn't want to talk to me, I would sit down and I would type out for them a beautiful, nice, long narrative report of what I thought. And they got that every week. And that was week in, week out. That was the foundation of my business because I was a strong listing agent. That's what I needed to do. On Wednesdays, I spent 1 hour, no more, no less. I only could handle 1 hour, 1 hour a week on lead generation. My lead generation consisted of working with a geographical farm, working with cancels, working with expireds. That's what I did. I created a program for that. And every week I worked on it for an hour. And if it took me an hour to get a custom letter out to an expired that I really wanted, then I spent an hour that week and I focused on that lead that week, and that's what I did. And everyone else had to wait. And then the following week, I gave it another hour. What I didn't do is I did not have it where I was so desperate for business that it was like, I got to come in every day and I got to do lead generation every day. Now, everybody that's listening on this line is going to be different, but my tolerance level for lead generation was an hour a week. And that's all I devoted to it. But let me tell you, an hour a week of lead generation led to listings, buyers, happy people. I will tell you, it was for me, it was very easy because people called me, and that's how I worked best. Friday was the day I was like, okay, what? And I only spent an hour, not any more, not any less. It was Friday's the day to work on that monthly task I got to do, which is marketing to all my databases. And what I did is on a Friday, I worked on my farming mailer and I worked on my monthly database mailer. Now, here's the wonderful thing about it. Usually and oftentimes by the second Friday of the month, that monthly task was done. So the next 2 Fridays, I would still take that hour, but I might collect, and I found myself reading magazines, clipping out articles, thinking of, I like the format of this. I like the headline. Maybe I'll use that headline one day. And I had this, so what I did is, even though I didn't have to do the work on, 2 of the Fridays in terms of coming up with content, then I used it as a day to do research and look at ideas and plan for the future. So then on another month, when I sat down and I didn't have any ideas and I was idealist and I was tired and exhausted, I'd go, okay, I got to spend an idea. Let me look through my idea folder. And then all of a sudden be like, great, that's what I'm going to do. So 4 hours a month on marketing, no more, no less. And my mailers went out consistently. That's how I built my farm. That's how farms, plural, that's how I made my business easy for me. And then finally, annually, I did my annual client review and I did my annual event. That's my plan. That's it. And when you look at a task schedule monthly, I can look at this and go, well, look at this. This isn't that bad. There's a couple things I do every week, and there's one thing I do once a month. Simple. When I look at it annually, okay, twice a year. That's what I want your business model to be. I want it to be a task management system, nothing else. And, I really encourage you guys to go and look at my YouTube video on my 60-minute secret. And sorry that you're seeing me in my pajamas in here, but this is a video that was done in my home when I do my hour of power. I do my hour of power every day. It's how I stay organized. It's how I get everything done. And I just, it's a good 8-minute video to watch. I encourage you to watch it. But basically the concept is, this is how I handle all my tasks. This is how I handle my personal tasks, my business tasks, any volunteer tasks, anything I'm involved with, it gets done during my 60-minute hour of power. I don't want to be doing projects at 7 o'clock at night. I don't want to be doing projects when there's hustle and bustle in my world. I want there to be my quiet, uninterrupted time. So I want you to go and watch this video. I think you get a really, really good idea of how I'm able to manage what I can take on in my world. So, the one thing I will just say about my hour of power, because when you watch this video, you really need to know a couple things. And the most important things are that you cannot be looking at email, taking calls, or working on stuff that has to get done right now. You really got to listen to the video, watch the binder that I use. Let me explain it to you in detail in the video. But I don't want you to have it be just another hour of distractions, because that's not productive. And I always tell people when they ask me, how long does all this take that you're asking for me to do? And I tell people that, for me, I was able to do all my marketing and I did it on my Fridays and I did it 4 hours a month. Okay. But realistically, if you're doing an 8.5 by 11 folder mailer, you're only going to need 2 hours a month. That's it. If you're doing an 11 by 17 mailer and you do that every quarter, that's only 4 hours per quarter. And I'm talking about doing the research, writing the articles, getting the content together. And if you don't like to write, use the service that provides customized articles for you. And I'm talking about customized. And I know our clients use our customized articles because it makes it easy for them. But it's got to also be in there, the requirement is you've got to have something that is also very local and very personal to you. So the time doesn't have to take that long. It's more of a consistent action that you take in your business. And you have to make sure that your database remembers you. If your database doesn't remember you, you are going to be out of business very, very quickly. And the one thing I will say is this. If you are a seasoned agent, you've been in the business a long time, you've got this great big database, but you only follow up with them sporadically, what you're doing is you're struggling because you're always looking for now business when you have it in your own backyard. All you need to do is go tend to that garden. You got weeds back there right now. It's a mess. And it's a mess because you're leaving the house, you're leaving your house and your garden, and you're going out looking for things elsewhere. You need to stay put, stay home, work with the garden you've got, weed it, feed it, water it, care for it, take care of it. It'll take care of you. Okay, now let's imagine that you need to build your database completely from scratch. You're brand new. And if you're brand new, or if you're newer, or if you're just database deficient, this is critical for you because you start with one client and you take care of him, and very quickly that client multiplies. And maybe you are already doing something where you have been sending out stuff and you're kind of going, wait a minute, I've been mailing, and maybe it's just not really in the manner that it needs to be. You just have to switch it up. And that's where it's really, really important, because if you're not doing it right, if you're not personality proofing your mailers, if your mailers are not doing anything for you, then you have to look at them and you have to ask the question, what's wrong with this mailer? Why is it not connecting? And if it's in an area that there's no turnover and there's no movement, then you may have to move your boat and you may have to find a new area to mail. But I will tell you that you never have to move your boat with your database of people that you know, past clients. Those past clients will take care of you as long as you remember them. So now I'm going to actually have Shauna talk a little bit about the importance of having a visual voice with your mailers and your database, because this is a critical component of what we do and what we help our agents do. But Shauna, maybe take a moment to address this with all of our listeners.
Absolutely. So Denise, you had referred earlier to visually generic mailers, and people do sense when they get something in the mail, whether it's something that has your voice or not, whether that be the content or the actual visuals on the piece. So the first step in really making sure that your database is getting quality materials is to address the brand factor, because your brand serves as your visual voice, whether that be for a farm, whether that be for a database, whether that be, even in your presentation materials. When you are not there to present or talk to the person in person, your brand needs to do that for you. And your visual voice is your unique business model. It's how you approach things in a visual form, so it can tell your story when you're not there. And as you're seeing on the slide right here, these are a number of different agent brands and a number of different stories. And if you're maintaining those connections with your past, current, potential clients in your database through the mail, having that strong brand, which helps them remember you, whether they're ready to do business again or they're ready to refer you business, that is absolutely critical. So if you were to enlist our help with creating your brand, once your brand's complete, then we can apply that to the mailers that you need for your database. And when we do a mailer for somebody, we might ask them, okay, well, what information can you get from your MLS? How much content do you want to have on there? Do you want to talk about like what you can get for the median is kind of an interesting way to convey information in another visual way. So we talk with you about like what kind of information do you want to get each month? And there's a couple of examples on here of exactly that. We've worked with this agent in particular, and we've learned about what kind of information is relevant to their database and what they want, and then we can build those materials custom for them. So whatever systems and tools you need in your business, we can build. So if you are thinking that you'd like our help in setting up a branding and some materials, just reach out via the web chat, or you can email us directly. You can email Shauna at thelonesgroup.com. That's SHAUNA at thelonesgroup.com. And we'd be happy to chat with you about your business and come up with some solutions for you. Okay, Brandy, I think I'd like to go ahead and turn it back to some questions. I understand that we've got a couple questions that were sent in.
Yes, we do. Okay, Denise, thanks for that great presentation. We're going to move on to question and answers, and I do have some questions from our audience, okay?
Let's do it.
All right, Denise, for this first one, can we go back to the 36-point system list of points?
You mean visually go back to it?
Yeah.
Well, let me talk about it for a second. I mean, I could visually go back as well. Let me just take a minute. Yeah, let's
go back. Well, here's
the
first question.
Yeah.
I think the chart will put it into context. So Denise, in your 36-point system, how many points would you give to texting a client?
Well, here's the thing. When you text a client, usually you're using texting as a mechanism during the transaction. So, but if you're reaching out and you're having a full-on conversation with a client by text and it's personal, then I would give it a point. But you have to be careful because people are always trying to find a way to what's the easiest, and this is the problem. They go, what's the easiest way for me to earn these points? I actually want you to balance that with what's the most visually impactful way I can earn my points. I want there to be a combination of personal. I want there to be a combination of visual, which is the mailing. So I wouldn't just say, oh yeah, you can just do text messages all the time. I want there to be something that is visual so that they remember you, so that they pass your materials around, they have them at the house, they see them, so that whenever they see it, they, there's a connection. So texting there's nothing wrong with texting. And there are, there's many, I have clients that I text, but usually that's, when we're in the middle of doing something. So you have to just balance your texting with other things.
So to clarify, if you're texting them something and it's like an informational blurb and you're not really interacting with them, that's more like an email, it's 1 point. But if you have a full-on conversation over text, that's more like a call.
No, I still don't give texting 4 points for a call because a call is voice to voice. Text is never going to get any more than 1 point ever in my 36-point system.
Got it. Okay. What if you are doing like a video email, like BombBomb?
Okay, now you do a video BombBomb and it's personal to that person and you're going to get 6 points. That's huge because you've made the video. It's for them. It can't be generic though. It can't just be, hi everyone, today I'm talking about real estate in Seattle. It can't be that. It needs to be, hey Denise, I was out looking at houses today and I know you told me you have a passion for Cape Cods and there's no Cape Cods anywhere in the Seattle area. Well, I found one today. I just thought of you. I had to send this to you. Maybe this will make you think of home because maybe your client's from Cape Cod, right? And they love Cape Cod houses. And maybe you're doing something like that. That's worth 6 points.
Okay, thank you. All right, Denise, would you still send people a calendar as a piece of follow-up, even these days when every device has one built in?
Yeah.
What would you do to make that valuable?
Well, first of all, let me tell you something about calendars. The one thing I think that we forget is that we are working with different types of people. You have to ask yourself if your database is, or that person is the type of person that you feel would benefit from a calendar. But we've had, and even though a calendar is not real estate specific, I would want it to be something that has houses in it for sure. But one of the things that we found when we asked a group of buyers and sellers what they wanted to get from you, it was all kind of like data, information. I want to know what's happening in my area. I want to know what's happening if there's zoning changes. I want to know this. I want to know that. And then when we had calendar on the list, everybody wanted a calendar. And we were like, what the heck? That was very interesting to me. And that's why I was very surprised to even see that. But that forced me to keep calendars on the list. But there are a lot of people that will take your calendars and they will use it in their kitchen to make a recipe schedule. They'll take your calendars and throw it in their office to make a schedule of things that they have to do, that it's not their general calendar that they're using. It's for something very specific, one item in their life that they use it for. It's not their day calendar that they're using. Of course, that's going to be on their phone or it could be, somewhere else. But these calendars are more for people that are more for people to use for specific things in their world. I get a bunch of calendars every year at the end of the year. I take a couple for me, My husband takes a couple for him. He uses his calendar to book summer events. I use my calendar for stuff, when do the dogs get their baths? When do they get their little, this medicine? Because I have different animals that need different medicine. I track all my dog stuff, all my animal stuff in one calendar. So don't be surprised. People like those calendars.
Is it too late to send one out this year?
Is it too late to send a calendar out this year? Well, we're at the end of January. I probably, instead of doing the calendar right now, because there are people like me that I want my calendar and I want it for the 1st of January, because I'm already doing my mindset for the start of January. I'm thinking about that December. I'm thinking about that early January. So we're getting into February. So I'm a little concerned about the timeline. Now, what you could do is you could send out a quarterly calendar and that could be done in I've seen agents do that really nice. And it's like a 90-day, it's a quarterly calendar and it's done on a hard cardstock, and it's just something that they can use to track. Or you send out a quarterly report, and then next year, do better, get your calendars out on time.
Okay, I don't have any more 36-point system questions, but I do have a couple more here. So if you want to switch back to that last slide, that's great. In the meantime, Denise, another question for you. I created a neighborhood tour video for my relocation buyers. That's pretty awesome. Do you think it would be weird to share it with my past clients and prospects in my geographical farm? What would they think about that?
Well, first of all, I think that you have to understand why are you doing that? What is the goal, right? And I think that if you're doing a neighborhood specific area and you're doing a video, what I think you're better off to do is make yourself a YouTube channel. Put all your videos on the YouTube channel, and then on your next mailing to your database, let them know, by the way, introducing my YouTube channel, go check out some of my videos, right? I think you're better to do something like that, because what I don't want you doing is sending people stuff that doesn't necessarily mean anything to them, because I don't know, as your past client, if I'm that interested in getting your video that you've done in a neighborhood that I have no interest whatsoever. Oh, you're gonna look cute on video, but no, I don't think so. I want you to be more specific, and that's the whole thing, where you got to look at those databases and ask these tough questions. Do they want to get this stuff? You can't assume everybody wants it, but by having a YouTube channel and welcoming them there, and you might, by introducing the YouTube channel, you might say, I've made a video that talks about some recent changes to some local laws that will affect everybody. So please check it out. Then they'll go check out that video, and then if they want to look at some others, they can.
I think that's great advice. Denise, those mailers you were showing look incredible, but they also look like they took a lot of work. Is it worth it? Is it a lot of work? Did those agents really make those?
So I'm going to answer yes, 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 no, yes to all of that. Is it a lot of work? Yeah, it's going to take you probably 2 full hours a month to do your mailer. That's going to be you sitting down and researching and doing the work you need to do. Now, what I used to do, to make it simple, my quarterly reports all had the same quarterly comparison information. So yes, every quarter I'd have to go in the MLS and find the new numbers. That actually was very quick. Yep, every quarterly report, I got to come up with an article. That could take me, 45 minutes to an hour. Once you get your brand done, once you have your layouts done, providing and filling the content really is not that hard. And I know for me, there were many months where I would sit down to do that marketing, like I told you, and to do my content, and I'd be like, I'm done, I'm golden, I'm good. But what I did, which I think is why I got so well known for marketing, was that I would sit down and go, what else can I be doing? What are some creative things that I could be, getting now and saving for later? So does it take time? Yes, it takes time. Do agents do their own work? Yes, they do. We have 2 types of agents. We have an agent that says to us, please help get me branded, make my templates, get all of my layouts done for me, and then I'm going to take it and I'm going to just run with it. And every month I will fill in the blanks because we give them their files in a way that they can easily edit. We have that type of client. Then we have the client that says, I surrender. I'm not good at this. Help me. I don't want to do it. And we do it all for them. Either way, what happens is the end result is a consistent mailer that clients get that helps that client to remember you, that gives you an opportunity to not have to rely on paying money for online lead generation, paying money to buy clients. This is, instead of buying them, you're cultivating them. It's growing your own. Instead of buying your produce at a grocery store, you're growing your own. And I'll tell you what, it's a lot cheaper. It's a lot healthier for your mental state. And my clients that have figured it out, that they've got to have a garden and they've got to tend to that garden, they don't get desperate. They don't open the fridge one day and have nothing. There's nothing in there and then go, oh, now I got to go shopping. Oh, and today I don't have money. Today I don't have the energy. Today I don't feel like leaving the house. That's the problem with agents today, is that the moment in time when they're the hungriest is not the moment in time they want to go get in their car and go shopping. By having your own garden, by growing your own database, your database will take care of you. You will have an abundance. You will look out your window and there's lots and lots of produce available. It's just there for the picking. You just have to tend to it. But the problem is agents do not like to do that work and that tending. And this is where once you do it, once our clients do it, they'll sit back and go, why didn't I do that? That was why didn't I do that 10 years ago? Because you're living a different, you're in a different place. You're living a different kind of business. You're no longer hoping and praying that a transaction is going to come your way. You trust and know that if you do the things you need to do, business will be there year in, year out, because you're growing and cultivating. That's the power of follow-up and taking care of those databases and the 36-point system.
Okay, we are just about out of time, but we've got one last question, Denise. My database is a wreck. I have neglected it for years. It's probably out of date, bad addresses, incomplete. What is the first step to salvaging this mess?
Okay, the first step is to stop beating yourself up about it. Wow, you've got a database that's a mess. That's a huge blessing to you. You've got something there to work with. I always tell people, I love a mess because a mess can be cleaned up. You're going to take those that you may have 300 people in a database and you may end up with 79 good, clean, strong leads. That is going to catapult your business. 79 good leads out of 300. I don't care what that number is. The first thing you're going to do is you are going to research every single client name. You're going to get the database updated. You're going to look at that name. And if you look at a name and you go, yuck, I didn't like working with him, you're going to discard it. You never again have to work with someone you don't like. If you look at a name and you go, oh, I feel so guilty. They were such nice people. I like them so much. Oh, I hope they haven't sold their house. And then you look up and they've sold their house. That's your lesson. That is your lesson. But if they're still there, you can restore this. You can build it. You can water this. You can have a plan. So do not ever give up. If you've got a database, you have the makings. All you need is one little seed to have some beautiful, incredible thing come out and grow for you. And you can grow your database. That's what I want people to know. And I really want you to understand that this is the key to building your business, are the relationships that you have. That is the most important thing.
Awesome advice. Thank you, Denise. And thank you, Shauna. And thank you to you, our audience, for spending your morning with us. If you have questions about today's presentation or you would like to know more about how we can help you with your real estate business, please give us a call. Our phone number and email address are there on your screen. So have an excellent rest of your day. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.